November 24th, 1971. One man changes everything. He walks into an airport like he belongs there. Dark suit, tie, calm face, nothing flashy, nothing weird. He buys a one-way ticket for Northwest Orient, Flight 305, Seattle to Portland. Short flight, routine trip. That's what everyone thinks. He boards under the name Dan Cooper. He sits in the back, quiet, polite, almost boring. The plane takes off. The sky is rough. Clouds everywhere. Then he gives a note to a flight attendant. She thinks it's a phone number at first. Just another weird passenger. Then he leans in and says the words that freeze the cabin. He says, "I have a bomb." Inside his briefcase, there are red sticks and wires. Maybe real, maybe not. Nobody wants to test it. He stays calm the whole time. No yelling, no panic, no big speech. Just clear demands. He wants money. He wants parachutes. He wants the crew to follow orders. And somehow, they do. On the ground, the FBI starts moving fast. The passengers are let go. The plane is refueled. The money is brought in. $200,000 in old bills. Heavy, bundled, marked. The kind of thing that should make a person nervous. Not him. He checks it like he's counting groceries. Then, he asks for the plane to take off again. This is where the story gets strange. He doesn't ask for a getaway car. He doesn't ask for a safe house. He wants the sky. He wants the crew to head south, low and slow, with the back stairs ready. The weather gets worse. Rain, wind, darkness. The jet climbs into a mess of clouds, and the man in the black suit sits there like this is all part of a plan. He even orders the crew to fly a certain speed, a certain altitude, a certain direction. He knows more about the plane than he should, or at least he acts like he does. That's what gets people talking later. Was he a pilot, a jumper, a con man? A criminal with military training? Nobody agrees. At one point, he opens the rear stairs in midair. Think about that. Night sky, jet engine noise, freezing air, and a man standing at the back of a Boeing 727 with a bag full of cash. That's not normal. That's not something you forget. Then, he disappears. No one sees him leave. No one sees a body. No one sees a crash. Just the plane, still moving through the dark. The crew lands later. The cabin is empty. The money is gone. The parachutes are gone. The man is gone. And that's the problem. If he died, where is he? If he lived, how did he survive? He jumped into a storm with a suitcase of cash and vanished without a trace. For decades, investigators chased names, tips, theories, even old serial numbers from the ransom money. They found scraps. Some people think he never made it. Some think he planned every second. Some think he had help waiting below. But no theory has ever fully closed the case. The strangest part is this. He didn't leave behind a face everyone remembers. He left behind a name the world gave him after the fact. D.B. Cooper. A mistake, really. The original ticket name was Dan Cooper. Somewhere along the way, the press got it wrong, and the wrong name stuck. So the legend began with a suit, a note, and a bomb threat. It ended with a jump into darkness. And more than 50 years later, the question is still the same. Who was D.B. Cooper? He buys a one-way ticket for Northwest Orient Flight 305, Seattle to Portland. Short flight, routine trip. That's what everyone thinks. He boards under the name Dan Cooper. He sits in the back, quiet, polite, almost boring. The plane takes off. The sky is rough, clouds everywhere. Then he gives a note to a flight attendant. She thinks it's a phone number at first, just another weird passenger. Then he leans in and says the words that freeze the cabin. He says, "I have a bomb." Inside his briefcase, there are red sticks and wires. Maybe real, maybe not. Nobody wants to test it. He stays calm the whole time. No yelling, no panic, no big speech. Just clear demands. He wants money. He wants parachutes. He wants the crew to follow orders. And somehow, they do. On the ground, the FBI starts moving fast. The passengers are let go. The plane is refueled. The money is brought in. $200,000 in old bills, heavy, bundled, marked. The kind of thing that should make a person nervous. Not him. He checks it like he's counting groceries. Then he asks for the plane to take off again. This is where the story gets strange. He doesn't ask for a getaway car. He doesn't ask for a safe house. He wants the sky. He wants the crew to head south, low and slow, with the back stairs ready. The weather gets worse. Rain, wind, darkness. The jet climbs into a mess of clouds, and the man in the black suit sits there, like this is all part of a plan. He even orders the crew to fly a certain speed, a certain altitude, a certain direction. He knows more about the plane than he should. Or at least, he acts like he does. That's what gets people talking later. Was he a pilot? A jumper? A con man? A criminal with military training? Nobody agrees. At one point, he opens the rear stairs in midair. Think about that. Night sky, jet engine noise, freezing air, and a man standing at the back of a Boeing 727 with a bag full of cash. That's not normal. That's not something you forget. Then he disappears. No one sees him leave. No one sees a body. No one sees a crash. Just the plane, still moving through the dark. The crew lands later. The money is gone. The parachutes are gone. The man is gone. And that's the problem. If he died, where is he? If he lived, how did he survive? He jumped into a storm with a suitcase of cash and vanished without a trace. For decades, investigators chased names, tips, theories, even old serial numbers from the ransom money. They found scraps, not answers. Some people think he never made it. Some think he planned every second. Some think he had help waiting below. But no theory has ever fully closed the case. The strangest part is this. He didn't leave behind a face everyone remembers. He left behind a name the world gave him after the fact. D.B. Cooper. A mistake, really. The original ticket name was Dan Cooper. Somewhere along the way, the press got it wrong, and the wrong name stuck. So the legend began with a suit, a note, and a bomb threat. It ended with a jump into darkness. And more than 50 years later, the question is still the same. Who was D.B. Cooper? A hijacker asked for something very specific. $200,000, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck. That was it. The plane was flying from Portland to Seattle. A short trip, 36 passengers, normal service, normal faces. Nobody knew. One man had already changed everything. He sat calm. He spoke low. No panic, no big scene. Just a note, passed to a flight attendant. Then the pressure started. The crew read the demands. They knew this was real, not a prank, not a drunk passenger. This was a man with a plan. The flight attendant walked the message through the cabin. Quietly, carefully. The passengers kept talking, eating, sleeping. Most of them still had no clue. Outside, the rain kept hitting the windows. Inside, the plane kept moving towards Seattle like nothing was wrong. But on the ground, everything was breaking loose. The FBI got involved fast. Local police did too. Agents started calling banks, counting bills, and putting together the money. They needed cash in the exact amount. Old bills, unmarked, fast. The parachutes were another issue. 4 of them. Why 4? That was the question. 1 for him, maybe. 3 for backup. Or maybe he just wanted everyone else guessing. The fuel truck was the strangest part. That told authorities this was not just about money. He had an exit in mind. He was planning for the plane to land, refuel, and leave again. That changed the whole game. The crew had to make choices in real time. Keep the passengers calm, keep the hijacker calm, keep the plane in the air long enough to buy time. The FBI and local law enforcement raced to build the ransom package. Meanwhile, the plane kept circling closer to Seattle. Nobody on board knew how thin the margin was. When the plane landed, the demands were met. The money came aboard. The parachutes were there. The fuel truck was waiting. Everything Cooper asked for was put in place. Then, the passengers were released. One by one, they got off the plane. They walked away, confused, tired, mostly unaware that they had just lived through one of the strangest hijackings in American history. Cooper stayed behind, and that was the part that made everyone nervous. Because once the passengers were gone, the plane became something else. It was no longer a hostage scene with a crowd to protect. It was just the crew, the hijacker, and a set of instructions nobody could fully trust. The money was delivered. The cabin was reset. The flight was ready to continue. But now the question had changed. Not, will he take the ransom? He already had. Not, will he release the passengers? He already had. The real question was simple. What was he going to do next? That was the moment the story turned darker. Because Cooper had gotten exactly what he wanted. And when a man like that asks for cash, parachutes, and a fuel truck, he is not making small plans. He is planning an escape. And once that plane took off again, nobody on board knew if Cooper intended to vanish into the night, jump into the storm, or do something even stranger. The passengers were safe. The demands were met, but the most dangerous part of the story had not yet begun. After refueling, the plane took off again. This time, it was just the crew and Cooper. No passengers, no distractions. He wanted it south, low, slow, and the weather got worse fast. Rain hit the windows hard. Wind pushed the aircraft around. The air was cold enough to sting. The kind of cold that gets into everything. Even inside the cabin, you could feel it. Then, around 8 p.m., something changed. A warning light came on in the cockpit. The crew looked back. The rear stairs were open, but they still could not see Cooper. Not at all. That was the problem. They never saw him leave. The plane kept moving. The engines kept roaring. The storm kept swallowing everything outside. Then, the aircraft shifted, suddenly, just enough for the pilots to think one thing. He jumped. Not into clean air, Not into daylight, into freezing darkness, into rain, into wind, into a thick black stretch of forest and mountains. He took the money with him. $200,000 in cash. Heavy, bulky, hard to carry. He still jumped. Think about that for a second. No normal skydiver would call those conditions safe. The weather was awful. The terrain below was brutal. The parachute itself was basic. And still, he went. That is what makes this case so strange. If Cooper really jumped there, he did it with almost nothing on his side. No good visibility, no soft landing zone, no guarantee the chute would work the way he wanted. Just a dark sky, a bad storm, and a plan no one else would try. The crew kept flying. They did not know if he lived or died. They did not know where he landed. They only knew the rear stairs were open, and the man was gone. And once he vanished into that storm, the whole case changed. Because now, it was not just a hijacking. It was a disappearance. On the ground, search teams would later look for him across rough land, thick woods, and cold rivers. But that night, nobody had answers. Only a plane full of fear and a sky too dark to read. Cooper had chosen the worst possible moment. Heavy rain, strong wind, freezing air, nighttime, no clear landing spot. And yet, he still went through with it. That is why people still argue about what happened next. Did he survive the jump? Did he die in the storm? Did he somehow make it out with the cash? Every theory starts here, at the rear stairs, open in midair. A warning light blinking in the cockpit, a crew staring into darkness, and one man, somewhere behind them, stepping out into the night. The plane flew on. The storm stayed behind it, and Cooper was gone. No one on board could prove what happened in that moment. They only had the signs. The open stairs, the shift in the aircraft, the missing man, and outside, the sky gave up nothing. If he jumped, he vanished into one of the hardest conditions imaginable. If he survived, he pulled off something close to impossible. Either way, that night made him a legend, not because he was seen, because he wasn't. The search started right away. Not days later, not weeks later, right away. The FBI jumped on it hard. This became one of the biggest hunts in their history. Agents fanned out across forests, rivers, mountains, empty roads. They checked the Pacific Northwest piece by piece. Helicopters flew low over the trees. Boats moved through cold water. Dogs followed trails that went nowhere. They had maps covered in marks, red circles, notes, photos, timelines. Every lead got pinned down, and every lead fell apart. No body, no parachute, no suitcase, no clear footprint, no clean answer. Just a plane, some money, and a man who vanished. The FBI started pulling people in fast. Hundreds were questioned. Thousands were looked at. Old jobs, military records, flight experience, criminal files. Anyone who might fit. Nothing stuck. They checked drifters, pilots, con men, ex-servicemen, men with the right age, the right build, the right past. Still, nothing. The problem was simple. Cooper knew too much. He knew how the plane worked. He knew which crew member to pressure. He knew what kind of aircraft he was on. He knew the systems. He knew the danger. He knew how to keep control. That made the search worse. Because if he was a random criminal, maybe he slips up. Maybe he leaves a clue. Maybe he panics. But he didn't act random. He acted prepared. So, the FBI dug deeper. They studied airline workers, former paratroopers, Air Force men, people with jump training, people with technical backgrounds, people who could move through an airport without looking suspicious. The list got long, then longer. A lot of names came and went. Some were exciting for a day, then they died on paper. A man in Florida, no match. A suspect in California, no match. A former soldier with the wrong timeline, no match. Every time it looked close, it slipped away. Meanwhile, the media kept the story alive. Newspapers printed his sketch again and again. Headlines got bigger. Pictures got bolder. People across the country followed every update. But the case never moved the way the public wanted. No arrest, no recovered money, no body in the woods, no confession that held up. Just silence. Years turned into decades. By then, the search was no longer just about one hijacking. It was about an American mystery. A man had walked onto a plane, taken control, and disappeared like he had never existed. That bothered everyone. Because the questions got uglier the longer they waited. Who was Cooper, really? Was he trained? Was he military? Was he just lucky? Did he survive the jump? Or did the night finish him before anyone could find him? And if he survived, where did he go? That part never made sense. He jumped into freezing darkness with a bag of cash. No one saw him land. No one saw him walk away. No one turned him in. No one found the money in a way that solved it. The FBI kept the file open. For years, then more years. Agents changed, leads changed. The core truth did not. He was still out there in the public mind. Maybe dead, maybe not. Maybe hidden under a new name. Maybe gone the second his feet hit the ground. The case became bigger than the crime. Because the crime was over in one night. But the mystery kept going. And that's why people still ask the same questions. Who was Cooper? How did he know so much about aircraft? And how did a man vanish after hijacking a plane in broad daylight? For almost 10 years, nothing broke open. No body, no clear trail, no clean answer. Then, 1980 happened. A young boy was digging near the Columbia River, just playing around. Then, he hit something odd in the sand. Bundles of cash, old bills, wet, stuck together, like they had been there forever. And then came the part that changed everything. The serial numbers matched the ransom money. That was the first real physical proof anyone had found in years. Part of D.B. Cooper's money had turned up, buried in the riverbank. Not all of it, just a piece. But even that small piece was enough to send the case spinning again. Because once the money showed up, the questions got louder. How did it get there? Did Cooper drop it during the jump? Did the money wash downstream after a bad landing? Or did someone else move it later? The FBI went back over everything. The river, the sand, the drop zone, the weather, the currents. Every theory came back with the same problem. It explained one detail. Then it broke 3 others. If Cooper landed near there, where was he? If he survived, where did he go? If he died, why was only part of the ransom found? And if someone else handled the money, who was it? The recovered bills were a clue, a real one. but they were also a trap. They made the case feel closer, then they made it feel farther away. Because the money proved something had happened, it did not prove what. That was the problem with the whole case. Every answer opened a bigger hole. The FBI checked for signs of a hidden stash. Maybe Cooper buried the cash and planned to come back. But there was no trail leading to any larger cache. They checked the riverbank itself. Maybe the money had been trapped there by shifting sand and floodwater. But that still did not explain why only a small portion surfaced. They checked for animal movement, erosion, human activity, anything that might have carried the bills from one place to another. Nothing gave them a complete story, and the deeper they dug, the stranger it got. The bills were packed in a way that suggested they had been kept together for a long time, but not in a neat, untouched stack. More like they had been handled, moved, and then lost again. So now the evidence was saying two things at once. Someone had held the money, and the river had held it too. That should have narrowed the case. Instead, it widened it. Because if the money was real, then Cooper was real too. Not a rumor, not a myth. A man who took the ransom and vanished into the night. But if he vanished, how? The jump itself was already a nightmare for investigators. Bad weather, darkness, a rough landing zone, a man in a cheap suit, and a bag with thousands in cash tied to his body. Survival was possible. So was death. So was something in between. The FBI kept looking for any sign that would settle it. A crash site, a witness, a body, some trace of Cooper's path after the jump. Nothing came close. The recovered bills became the one solid thing in the entire case, and even that was incomplete. A few bills, a patch of evidence, enough to prove the story happened. Not enough to finish it. That is why this discovery mattered so much. It gave the case weight again. It pulled Cooper out of pure legend and back into real-world evidence. But it also reminded everyone of the same ugly truth. The money was not the answer. It was the question. And after that discovery, the mystery only got deeper, because now everyone knew this much. Some of the ransom reached the riverbank, but nobody could explain the rest. And nobody could explain Cooper. More than 50 years later, and we still don't know his name. D.B. Cooper vanished, and nobody has proved who he was. No official ID, no charges, no clean answer. Just a case file that never really closed. That's the part people can't let go of. Not the jump, not the money. It's the silence after. The kind that makes every theory sound possible. He may have died that night. He may have survived. He may have walked away and lived quietly for decades. If that's true, then he pulled off something rare. He didn't just rob a plane. He erased himself. The FBI kept digging for years. They chased tips, found clues, tested leads, and still came up empty. By 2016, they officially stopped active investigation. But stopping the search didn't stop the questions. It just handed them to everyone else. Because the details never sat right. The weather was bad, the sky was rough, the jump was risky, the money was heavy, the drop zone was dark. Any one of those things could have ended him. Maybe they did. Or maybe that was the plan all along. Maybe he studied the odds, Maybe he knew exactly how much fear people would have after he disappeared. Maybe he understood something simple. If you leave behind no body, no confession, and no proof, the story gets bigger than the man. And that's what happened here. D.B. Cooper became a rumor with a parachute, a name people repeat like it belongs to a ghost. But he was real. He sat on that plane. He made the demands. He took the money. He stepped into the storm. Then he was gone. The strange thing is how little we actually know. We know he used the name Dan Cooper or something close to it. We know he dressed plain. We know he sounded calm. We know he acted like a man with a plan. After that, the trail breaks apart. That break is why this case still lives. Every few years, someone claims they solved it. A suspect gets named. A theory gets attention. A relic shows up. A bill, a parachute part, a possible clue. Then the story fades, and the mystery is still there, waiting. Maybe he landed hard and never made it out. Maybe he buried the money and changed his life. Maybe he died somewhere nobody looked. Or maybe he pulled off the perfect escape and watched the news from a safe distance, knowing the world would never catch him. If so, he won. Not because he got away with money, but because he got away with a name. For half a century, the case has outlived everyone involved. Agents aged out. Witnesses passed on. Files stacked up. The man at the center stayed unknown. That's why this story keeps coming back. It's not just crime. It's the idea that someone could step into the dark and leave almost nothing behind. Just a seat. Just a bag of cash. Just a question nobody can answer. So what do you think happened? Did D.B. Cooper survive the jump? Or did the storm take him that night? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more real mysteries like this one, subscribe to the Hidden Archives. More than 50 years later, the identity of D.B. Cooper remains unknown. No one has been officially identified. No one has been charged. No one knows whether he survived the jump. Some believe he died that night. Others believe he escaped successfully. Perhaps he lived the rest of his life in complete anonymity. He carried one of the greatest secrets in criminal history to the grave.